What is going on, everybody? It's good to be here. It's good to be seen. It's good to be heard. Well, we just finished episode 5. And I like doing these live reviews for this show. So I'm going to finish out this whole series doing live reviews. And I got my son back here. Look how good he's being. And so, well, it's better than episode 4. But that's not saying much because episode 4 was so bad. It's really just confirming what we already knew, right? We knew from the leaks. By the way, if you haven't seen the spoiler warning yet, big spoiler warning. We're going right into spoilers with this. If you hadn't seen the leaks at the beginning of May indicated that Reva was going to save the day. Reva was going to find out who Luke and Leia truly were and basically sacrifice herself to Vader to protect the kids. Even though she's killed so many kids already, I don't know what's so special about these guys, but yeah. So that's kind of confirmed at the end of this episode that's really how it's gonna go, and that was confirmed. If you haven't seen it, it was confirmed by her basically getting all the secrets to the puzzle at the last 30 seconds of the show because she found Obi-Wan's basically intercom system and found a recording with Leia's father on Alderaan, and so Bail Organa, and so Bail basically leaves a message for Obi-Wan, saying, "Hey, if anyone finds out about the kids being Anakin's kids, we're in deep shit. I'm going to go to Tatooine." So he gave all the keys to the puzzle all on one voice message, and then the plot armor just gave it to Reva because it was dropped in the sand and it was forgotten. And so now Reva knows where Luke is, he knows who Leia is, and I'm sure that's what's going to be the climax of episode 6 of this miniseries. Massive disappointment, so cliche, lack of creativity, bad writing. It's like this is like me experiencing what I'm sure Democrats are experiencing right now. It's like watching and talking with Democrats who are watching Joe Biden just royally fuck everything up. It's what you expected would happen, yet you're still disappointed that it's happening. So all you can do is either be really upset or just make jokes about it, or just pretend like it never happened, and the only thing that's important to you is the prequels and the original trilogy, which is the category that I'm in. As much as I love Obi-Wan, he's my favorite character. I would name my next son Ben if I had the power to do so. My wife would not let me do it. As much as I like Obi-Wan Kenobi, as much as I like Ewan McGregor, as much as I like Hayden Christensen, not to their fault, it's definitely to Disney and the writers that they hire and the directors. I'm going to finish out Kenobi and I'm never going to think about it again. It's not Star Wars for me. Same as sequels are not Star Wars for me either. The only thing that I really consider Star Wars so far, unless they actually make something that's good, is the prequels, Clone Wars, a little bit of Rebels, a few story arcs in Rebels, Rogue One, and then the original trilogy. That's it. And so it's kind of a disappointing thing to have to say because I really wanted Obi-Wan Kenobi to be something that I can get behind, and I just can't, man. So how this goes, they track Obi-Wan Kenobi to Jabim, and the show starts with a flashback of Anakin pre-Attack of the Clones, because it can't be Attack of the Clones because he doesn't have his metal hand yet. So it's got to be before the battle on Geonosis. And he's sparring with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan does not look older in that scene. He actually looks very, very much like he did in Attack of the Clones. So props to him. But it was super weird to see 40-year-old Anakin Skywalker as a 17-year-old because they didn't do any anti-aging with him. So it looked really bizarre. But in episode 5 is like, it's like a really strong awakening that they gave Obi-Wan Kenobi a TV show budget and wanted movie quality results, which is why I've been arguing from the very beginning when they announced this show that it should have been a movie, not a TV series. Everyone was really pumped that it would be a TV series because you had 6 hours to tell a story, but Disney doesn't do good TV shows, especially when it comes to like Marvel or Star Wars. They just don't do good TV shows, minus The Mandalorian, which I find to be a fluke. And the only reason why it's a fluke good show is because of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, but they weren't even a part of this series, so I had very little hope that it was going to be good. It should have actually been a movie. It would have been way better as a movie because there would have been more money. The CGI would have been better. Hopefully the writing would have been better, and they would have had more competent directors, and hopefully Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would have been a part of that picture. But instead, we get a low budget Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So they start off with a dueling scene on Coruscant, which I love seeing. It was a little weird with Anakin, but if you can get past that, the fight choreography was pretty good. It still wasn't prequel good. Prequel lightsaber combat was really cool to watch. This was kind of that. It was like 85% that, and then some bad choreography mixed in. I give it a pass because it's the best choreography that I've seen in Star Wars since the prequels. As far as live Star Wars is concerned, since the prequels. Maybe you can count Vader's fight scene in Rogue One, but he wasn't going up against lightsabers, so it doesn't really count. This is the best lightsaber combat I've seen in almost 2 decades. So overall, I give it a pass. But there was a lot of telegraphing, and if you watch any sort of hey, not on the iPad, be quiet. Watch any sort of like fight choreography or medieval education on sword fighting, there's very little telegraphing, because telegraphing is what gets you killed. Showing your enemy where you're going to strike is a terrible idea. There's a lot of telegraphing in this episode, which is really irritating, but there's far less than what I'm accustomed to that Disney's been pumping out with the sequels. So overall, I take it as a win. There was a lot of prequel level type of fighting, which I really enjoyed. A lot of twirling, a lot of fast pace. You want to watch Monster Trucks? Yeah. Okay, give me 10 minutes. Okay? Almost done working. So it's a lot better than it used to be, which is fine. And it was better than lightsaber combat that we got prior to this episode. Hey, Daddy's working. You want to come up? Yeah. You want to be in the show? Yeah. All right. Okay. Say hi. Hi. Of this episode. So once we get past that flashback, we start going into the core content of this episode, which it's been a while since I've seen a show that's tried to do so much and has accomplished almost nothing, because I feel like we're on the tail end of the first episode. Like all of 5 episodes so far could have been squished into like 1.5 episodes. You know what I mean? And so it's super frustrating to see where we are in the show. Obi-Wan Kenobi is prepping to get people off world because he knows that Darth Vader is coming, right? Darth Vader attacks. For some reason, only sends like 30 stormtroopers. He should have just sent a whole fleet. But for whatever reason, he like goes easy on them. And they do a narrow hallway scene. Like we haven't seen enough of those. And if you thought stormtroopers were bad in episode 4 of this series, they get worse in this show because, oh my God, they can't hit anything, which maybe tracks because they're pretty bad in A New Hope. So maybe they're so bad in this that they're atrocious in this, so they become bad in that. Like they get better, but even though they get better, they're still horrible. I don't know, because they're in a narrow corridor. And even with like 30 or 40 stormtroopers, they hit, I think, 2 people. they don't even really kill them. They just hit them in the gut, and the good guys kind of just leave them there. So they don't even hit more. They hit 2 people, one guy and one girl, and they kind of injure one other. So maybe 3 people, but no one really dies in this fight scene except stormtroopers, and some of them are even at like point blank range. Some of them are 3 feet away from these rebel fighters and still miss. Like, where are you shooting? You miss by like 3 feet. How do you miss if you were 3 feet away? But they're just so choreography for them is so horrible. Like, someone's unarmed, so instead of just shooting them from 10 feet away, they run up to them, the opportunity to defend themselves, and then they take down the stormtrooper. And so Reva and Obi-Wan, because eventually the numbers just aren't in Obi-Wan's favor to hold that defense for very long. Reva and Obi-Wan come to a temporary truce and have a conversation where Obi-Wan realizes that Reva was never on board with Darth Vader from the very beginning. She's been hiding the fact that she's been hunting Darth Vader since she was a youngling, because lo and behold, she was one of those younglings from the very beginning of the episode where where Anakin Skywalker kills all the younglings. Hey, you need to be quiet or Daddy's going to put you in a different room, okay? Okay, be quiet. So Anakin kills all the other younglings and then stabs Reva as a child, and Reva doesn't die because she's a super being, and she doesn't die by being stabbed. I guess the only person that dies in Star Wars from being stabbed is Qui-Gon Jinn, because Reva's going to survive twice from this. The Grand Inquisitor survived 1 stabbing, and so no one dies from stabbings. So why stab people? So anyways, so it turns out that Obi-Wan finds out, the secret, that Reva's secretly hunting Darth Vader. And for whatever reason, she knows that Anakin is Darth Vader, even though she never was around him when they used that word. She was never around him when they called him Darth Vader, unless he was in the suit. So I don't know where she made the connection. I guess there's not so many super powerful, force sensitive bad guys, go around in the galaxy. So maybe she just assumed that it was Anakin the whole time. But so Obi-Wan kind of pleads to her, like, hey, we can take him down together. She kind of secretly goes along with it. And he basically surrenders and kind of what's the right word? Like, baits Darth Vader onto the planet. And this is where it kind of gets a little funky. Darth Vader shows up. He never can do anything for himself. Darth Vader shows up, and if they haven't already made Darth Vader incompetent, they definitely solidified that in this episode. Shows up, and he makes Reva Grand Inquisitor, and goes down to the planet and goes after Obi-Wan Kenobi. He breaks through the defenses, right, the doors for this corridor, and gets to the hangar. Everybody's hiding in the ship and tries to take off. Darth Vader, which to their credit uses some pretty powerful force, powers to pull the ship back down to the surface, which was really cool to see, except the budget's so bad that it looked terrible. And then he rips the ship apart. So you can definitely see the power that Darth Vader has. And no one's in the ship because they were all in the ship right next to it. But then Vader just lets them get away. So I don't know. And don't be one of those people who says, oh, he let them get away because he used all of his power on the first ship. He didn't look tired at all. He could have easily just done the exact same thing on the very next ship, but for whatever weird reason, he just let the actual ship get away because he's incompetent and he's not scary in the show at all. And he lets people live rather than just murder people like he does in the original trilogy, right? He just snaps people's necks in the original trilogy. He just lets everybody live in this show. And so as Darth Vader watches Obi-Wan get away, Reva sneaks up behind him. which all she had to do was just stand behind him and then light her lightsaber and stab him to injure him and then swing on him so she could like decapitate him. Nope. Instead, she activates her lightsaber and does this huge telegraph swing, which gives anybody more than enough time to defend against it. And Darth Vader obviously defends against it. Now, this fight scene was fun to see from the perspective that it wasn't even really a fight. I was going to get really pissed if they made it a close call where they were like, oh, who's going to win? Reva's holding her own. But that wasn't actually the case, which was really nice to see. Darth Vader didn't even activate his own lightsaber. He just used the Force and toyed with her for 4 minutes before he got bored and then kicked the shit out of her. But her fight choreography was atrocious. Do you want Daddy to put you down? No. Okay, then stop wiggling. Her fight choreography was atrocious. There was the very beginning of the fight scene, she chases Darth Vader. She like runs after him. Okay, stop. She chases him, runs right at him, right? And then like rolls on the ground, like stop, drop, and roll kind of rolls on the ground, which was just laughable. I had to pause and rewatch it because I was like, what the fuck is that? And so it was brutal. It was brutal. It was worse than sequel trilogy fights choreography for Reva. It was laughable. It was nice to see Darth Vader, but it was horrible choreography for Reva. But eventually, Reva gets defeated, and Darth Vader just stabs her again. And then the actual Grand Inquisitor shows up, and you find out that he was never dead the entire show. No one dies from being stabbed. And so what did they do? They stab Reva, and then they leave her there on the planet. Rather than Darth Vader just killing her, which is what he should have done. He just stabbed her, left her alive, and was just like, oh, no, she'll definitely die from this one. And then just left, and she didn't die. Oh, it's so bad. He's just so incompetent. He's the worst bad guy in this show, but he's the best bad guy in episode 4. Stop it. No. He's the best bad guy in episode 4. So I just don't understand. And then it ends with Reva finding out who the children are. And that's how it ends. And so overall, it's disappointing, but at this point, it's exactly what I expected it to be. But like I said, it's like being a Democrat and just watching Biden just be a total shit show. That's exactly how I feel in this show. So maybe I can relate to Democrats on that front now. Because it's what I know is going to happen, yet I'm still disappointed. And so that is my review. What are your thoughts? What are your comments? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And you can always check out more episodes of what I do right now. Overall, I give episode 5 a 5 out of 10. Average television. The only thing that makes this show, makes this episode good is the actual force powers of Darth Vader. That's the only thing that makes this episode any good. The rest is complete garbage. Maybe you can make an argument that Obi-Wan Kenobi's fight choreography was fun to watch, and the flashback was fun to watch. It was good to see Anakin and Obi-Wan on screen together again. And you can tell that that's the scene that they were talking about in their interviews, that was the scene that they found to be very, very special because they haven't done that in almost 2 decades. So it was really nice to be a part of that moment, and I'm sure it was very special for them to be Anakin and Obi-Wan again in the same room doing the same scene. I'm sure that was very special. So it was really cool to watch, even though the CGI was janky, choreography wasn't perfect. They're also older, so they can't move like they could when they were 28 and 18 or whatever. So it was still cool to see, and it was very, very special in that regard. So I give it a 5 out of 10 simply because of that scene and Obi-Wan's fight choreography with his lightsaber in the corridor, blocking bullets and stuff. And then I give it 5 out of 10 because of the, seeing the power level of Vader. But everything else was pretty atrocious. Tala died, and that was nice to see. It was good to see someone eventually, die. But she sacrificed herself, and I didn't give a shit because I don't care about the character. I'm here for Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and I'm barely getting both of them. I'm really only getting incompetent Vader and incompetent Obi-Wan, which doesn't really count. So overall, it's an average television episode. Overall, this show is not good. And if you have any sort of sanity, don't be like me and watch it. Just save your time and do something else with your life. Alrighty. Thanks for watching this review, and we'll see you in the final review next week. Take care.